Good afternoon and welcome to the March 7th, 2023 Glens Falls City Planning Board meeting. Our agenda tonight has 5 items. Our first item is just a housekeeping, which is the review and potential approval of the minutes from the February 7th, 2023 meeting. Mr. Lancaster, any comments on them?
No, everything's agreed.
No comment.
Mr. Brown?
No comment.
All right, I had no comments either, so I would make a motion to approve the minutes as they were submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is old business. The first item is site plan review 220014 pursuant to City Code Chapter 220-C, subsection 8, Matt Hummel, owner of tax map number 303.18-19-7, commonly known as 199 to 2001 Warren Street, is seeking an amendment to a previous site plan approval to construct a one-story addition to the existing building for use as commercial restaurant space. Mr. Hummel.
Typo, 200, 199, 200.
What did I say?
2001? Might be a typo.
No, my dyslexia may have kicked in there for a second. 200. Matt, how are you? Good. Tell us a story about your site plan.
So minor changes regarding parking and the rear between the restaurant and then the existing shop building. There was a slight change as far as the dimensions of that addition, actually joining the building and then coming towards that private road a little bit with the building.
Okay. Nothing that changed anything with the zoning and stuff.
No, it's all in the
The rest of it was just kind of realignment of the parking spaces to get the unloading zone.
yeah, so here you got parking, there need a little bit more space and just slight adjustments to the drawings.
But nothing has really changed the outside of the building, any of that other than that one extra door.
I mean, dimensionally, the building grew a little bit, but it was at -2.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this application? Anybody online that's looking for us? So I will turn this over to Mr. Brown, our architectural consultant, get his input on this.
No comment.
No comments on your end. And we'll start with Mr. Belvin. Anything from you?
No. It's great.
Ms. Belvin? See how easy that was?
Excellent.
I think we're all good with that. Peter?
Lift that mic up a little
Oh, get it in so that we can hear.
bit.
Is it on?
What? Loud?
No, it's not gonna hold it, sorry.
See it?
So I think we're all good with this one. Do we need to do anything seeker-wise?
With respect to seeker, we'd already done it last time. It was an unlisted action. No further action was required. We're all signed off.
We're all good with that. So then I would make a motion that Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the Board of Site Plan Review, hereby grants site plan approval for the project identified as Matt Hummel, owner of tax map number 303.18-19-7, commonly known as 199 to 201 Warren Street, as presented at the meeting of 7 March 2023, with no conditions. Thank you. Second? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Matt.
Excellent, thank you, appreciate it.
Our next item on the agenda is also old business. It is site, or sign review, 220009 pursuant to City Code Section 109-6. AJ Signs, representing the owner of Hudson Headwaters Health Network, is seeking to amend the previous signboard approval located at 38 LaRose Street. Good afternoon.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm well. For the records,
My name is Emma Hack with AJ Sign Company, representing Hudson Headwaters. As we presented before the board, we had gotten approval for channel letters on the building and 2 directional / monument signs. The only change for the channel letter signs is that we originally were going to do those as a brown colored, and after kind of going back and forth in review of visibility, obviously this is a health center, that we determined white would be probably the most visible and easily readable color to go with. So we're just looking to get approval on that change. And then for the monument sign, nothing other than adding that small box where it says Albany Men. We haven't made any other changes. They obviously, from when we had spoken last and presented to the board last, have merged. Albany Med and Glens Hospital has merged, and they have a laboratory service within the Hudson Headwaters facility. Now they're going to be offering those services, so they want to make sure that it's identifiable for people who need to go to that lab service.
but there's no real major change to the size of the sign or anything, just adding that in there.
We did add the bottom panel, which is an additional 10 square feet, but other than that, no. It did make it a little bit higher just so it doesn't sit within the snow.
Right.
But other than that, no.
All right. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this application? Seeing none, Mr. Brown, our architectural consultant.
No concerns.
No concerns for me. I will start on the other end.
With that, extension basically coming down from the original, sign, is there any obstruction, is that as far as ingress, egress, getting in and out, and having the visual, because that sign's lower now?
No, the sign itself is pretty small and it's set back, so it's not like you're gonna be pulling out of the parking lot or from the road and that obstructing any motorist view.
Okay, thank you. No objection.
Is it?
No concerns.
This color? I have no comments on it either. I think it was, the only question that I really had, I think with the, we had talked about the brown letters on the top before, and I can kind of see the reasoning for that. That's on a flat roof, correct?
It's on the, sure.
On
So
the
we can't-
parapet
yeah, the-
portion of it. Do you think there'll be an issue with snow buildup and the white letters against the snow? I mean, they are outlined in black, correct?
Yes, so they do have, well, it's a dark brown outline, so we're using that as a breakup, but we did determine that from a distance, if you are doing brown or any really darker color, it starts to blend in with the surrounding building and the trees. So white was, for the most part, out of the 3 months of the year, 4 months of the year, we thought it would be the most visible. Hopefully, with the snow, we won't see any issues either.
Okay. Very good. That was the only thing I had. Anything on seeker with this one?
No.
No
Not
seeker
required.
signs. Then I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as a board of sign review, hereby grants sign approval for the project identified as AJ Signs, representing the owner of Hudson Headwaters Health Network at 38 LaRose Street, hereby approve the signage change as presented at the meeting of 7 March 2023. Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is site plan review 23-0003 and architectural review 23-0002. Pursuant to the City Code, Chapter 220, Section 19, subsection C, Jeff Flagg, the Economic Development Director representing the City of Glens Falls, seeking site plan and architectural review and approval for the proposed Glens Falls Market Center to be located on tax map number 309-28.1-9 and 309.28-1-10, commonly known as 51 to 63 South Street.
Doesn't matter, I'll be heard.
You can hear it.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Flagg, as the chairman said, I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Glens Falls. The project before you is being applied for the first time, but it's probably not the first time you've seen it. You may recall, many of you anyway, that we presented this to the board probably about 3 months ago. And to get some initial comments. On the basis of those comments, of course, made some changes. Also, we're engaged with the state to look for any responses from them, from the State Historic Preservation Office. We have comments. I think you should have received a copy of the letter from SHPO to the extent of asking for a few small changes, and we've asked the architects to take a look at some of those. Those won't be reflected here, of course. Given the time frame that we're talking about, we only received those letters, or that letter late last week. As you know, this is a project that has been going for a long time. Right? The core, sort of the essential core component of the $10 million downtown revitalization initiative grant that the city received back in 2017. Obviously, there's been lots of changes in the interim 6 or 7 years now. This is actually the fourth, I believe, iteration of this specific building. Again, we're very comfortable with the design that we have now. We've tried to design this to be as multi-purpose as possible, while also being as efficient as possible, while also keeping within the budget that the state has given us. Obviously, that's been a great challenge given the COVID and the sort of fallout from that, much of which has been the rise in interest rates and also the rise in material costs and things like that. So I think we have a really good, solid project. Obviously, there's several things that have to happen. We're here for site and architectural review. We have to go through the secret process as well, but we want to sort of take the step here and see if we can move forward. I have with me Devin Telberg from Envision Architects, the lead architect firm that's been working with us for well over a year now, I think. And also Peter Loyola from CLO Site, the landscape architects, and they can tell you much more in detail about the project.
Yeah, sure. Again, Peter Loyola, CLA Site. We got a great project. We have a 6,000 square foot building in the shape of a birch leaf. I think we presented that last time. And we wanted to, from the site development standpoint, carry through with that concept of just an organic, sustainable site plan that is going to be a place where people can enjoy. We centered the building on the site. Those yellow leaves that represent birch leaves are all ground plane. We're proposing porous pavement, pavers in those spaces, so those are flat. We have also, as part of the project, some planted areas around the perimeters where we could, and grading and drainage plan that's been presented to you folks. We've been in conversation with the fire chief and have a letter of approval from the fire chief on the circulation. With regard to stormwater, we've been working with Jeremy, and he has been on board with some of the infiltration practices we're going to be incorporating, so we're not going to be impacting the city street. We have a little bit of a documentation that we need to provide to Jeremy as a final report for the stormwater, which hopefully conditional upon an approval that we'll be able to provide with that detail. In the back we're proposing kind of a rain garden, so the whole concept was really to try and make this a kind of an organic feel, flexible space, pavilion and space. As probably the most impactful piece of this on South Street is that we're proposing to push the curb, remove the parallel parking in front of South Street, to accommodate a larger sidewalk and more pedestrian traffic. And in addition to that, we are showing 2 handicap spots on either side of that. That would help with accessibility and certainly need that. Elm Street side, we are proposing pavers and just an access way down through the Elm Street corridor. We're including bollards and lighting as part of this project, ornamental lighting. Along the south edge of the property, we are proposing a louvered fence. You have that in your package and a detail of that. So all the components are there. We think this is going to make a wonderful project, and I'd like to open it up for questioning.
The site work that you talked about coming in from Elm Street, that's in coordination with the stuff that Spring City Development has already proposed to and shown, so that's all in coordination.
Exactly. So that's been in coordination, right? Exactly, and that's going to be an important corridor, obviously, in this space.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with that, I'll hand it over to Devin to talk a little bit more about the building as appropriate. If you have any questions with regard to the site, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure. Yeah, we'll kind of circle back after we've heard about the building and go to that. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Jen Talberg. I'm with Envision Architects. The building that we designed was unique and special to this site, and especially to Glens Falls, reflecting the Adirondack nature of the region. We wanted to create a modern design. The building is about 6,000 square feet of totally open space, and it has overhead tilt-up doors that are 12 feet high to provide a huge wide area for any activity that might be more porous to go between the inside and the outside. We consider this building more like an enclosure that is flexible to the warmer seasons and can block wind and cold air in the winter season. Our approach is to be a low energy building, and we provided a few human-sized doors for emergency egress, and slanted roof that provides clerestory fenestration and illumination from above. Around the building, on top of the overhead doors, are some slanted, like a thin louver to help block sun and provide an architectural feature as well. The roof has a very deep overhang, and it's, I think the tallest is, I believe, 32 feet high. So it's not taller than the Elm Street building next to it.
Very good. Excellent. I'm sure we have some members of the public who would like to speak on this. Anyone interested, I'll start on this side of the room and kind of work my way around. So, Peter, I'll start on your side. Any comment from you? I'll move this way.
Hi, Mike Devlin, 38 South Street. I just received mail, with respect to what's going on here. My property at 38 South Street is directly across from the farmer's market now. And it really doesn't have any effect on me staying there and my tenants for his business because it's seasonal. But I do have concerns with the city, with respect to what's going on with the property that's there now, that's the farmer's market. If that space is going to be turned into development, is that what I understand from what I spoke to the...
Yeah, that was a previous project that was reviewed about 6 months ago, 5 months ago. The Spring City.
Spring City.
Spring City.
Got their approval in October or November.
Yeah, so it was about five months ago, that was that
Well,
project.
I've got that one too, so my point is, that space is gone as far as parking goes, and that is gonna affect my tenants, their business, their patrons won't have space to park because the back parking lot is kind of useless for them, with respect to being full all the time with the bank people and the 2-hour limit on it. It's not really productive. And I don't know as though it's gonna be a great idea to eliminate parking and put buildings there for more people and the need of more parking, and do away with parking for people that are gonna come and patronize the farmer's market for a seasonal amount of the year, and what is gonna be done with the space in the off-season, and there's no parking on the space. Somebody can't go, I wanna go to the farmer's market, well, where do you park? You can't park there. Now, Sonny Bonaccio's got his condos there. Where do you park? You can't park, you can park behind South Street on the weekends, but there's already a problem there. And maybe some thought should be put into, is it a good idea to have the farmer's market there? Maybe you should put a farmer's market, if it's only gonna be used in a seasonal area, in an area where people already can access it and park. They're not gonna have parking anyway, and come there, then when it's not being used, to be able to park there. That's my point. I mean, I heard of another plan, I never got the mail on that one, but somebody said something about a bus garage going in where the parking is now.
No, it's not.
Oh, great, that's a good one. That really would have.
So the project that you're speaking about for Spring City Development, that's already been reviewed, that's not on our.
Okay, good.
This one is strictly in the vacant lot that's there now, that
Yeah.
really isn't parking to begin with. They're putting, it's a vacant lot.
The city owns some property there?
Correct,
Okay.
correct, and that's where the old OTV was in,
Yeah.
was in that lot. The city now owns that, and that's where this is going. So it's not, this project isn't taking away any additional parking.
Well, I understand that, but it's also not bringing in any. I mean, there's potential to be parking there. And that's why I'm saying maybe some more thought should be put into where is people gonna park, and if the farmer's market itself could be put and designed to be put where the bus garage is gonna be, and you could have a nice facility there to park and have a farmer's market. It's more centralized. People that have businesses that are existing, people that come there, go, oh, look, there's restaurants here in town too. Not moving outside, the farmers people, okay, go there.
So
I think more thought should be
the
put into
the city is undertaking a parking study, and I
Yes.
know that's what, I can see Jeff raising his hand back here. They're in the process of doing a parking study at this point.
Yes.
To
Good.
look at the availability of parking within the city, so I know that.
Just
that
as
is
someone that's
being
been
addressed.
downtown for 33 years, and I've watched the farmer's market grow, and it's great, it's a 3-hour event, you know, it's terrific. But if you're gonna put all the taxpayers' money into one basket of eggs and stick it out on that corner of South Street, it's great, but I mean, why not take those farmers people and bring them more into the area where, hey, you know, they're park there
It's
and
not,
come into Glens Falls.
the misnomer is that this is strictly for farmer's market. It's not.
No, I understand
the
that.
intent
That's
here
what I'm saying.
is for this to be a more
Exactly.
well-utilized
Yeah,
venue.
I agree with
That can be done for various things. And the mayor has spoken several times about options for how parking can be handled during events. That you know, part of South Street could be blocked off, and that allows for people to circulate around the area without having to drive. They can leave an emergency access drive-through during the event, things of that nature. So I know it has been addressed by the mayor.
My point is, I don't know as though enough thought has been put into the practicality of that spot for the farmer's market. And my
Significant
argument
amount.
would be, I think it would be much better off being put into the existing parking lot that's there somehow, and put some type of a maple leaf structure over that. If you want to make it like a leaf, that's terrific, but make it so that it can be in an area where you can still people can still park year-round out there and come access it.
The DRI went through all of that. So when the downtown revitalization initiative.
Like I said, I got my notice last week.
So that, there's been
All right,
a
thank
great
you for your
deal of
time.
Absolutely. You Ken, let me see if is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this application before I allow Jeff to come back up and give us his synopsis? Seeing none, I will let you come back up, Jeff. I'm gonna read into the minutes a letter that we did receive. It's from Gary McCula, Architect PLLC. We are unable to attend the planning board meeting on March 7th, so I wanted to address the concerns we were having regarding the site plan. Sidewalk expansion reference drawing C-103 layout plan. The sidewalk along the front of the property is expanding by about 8 feet into South Street, eliminating the street side parking spaces currently there. There are new handicapped parking spaces shown at the north and south ends of the sidewalk. Currently, traffic on South Street moves south to the controlled intersection where it splits into 2 lanes, one bearing right onto Broad Street and the other going straight on South Street. Approximately 90% of this traffic bears onto Broad Street, and the proposed sidewalk expansion effectively eliminates the right turn lane, as this turning lane is controlled by a green turn arrow when the adjacent lane has a red stoplight. The proposed sidewalk expansion and handicap parking space have a detrimental effect on the flow of traffic at this intersection. The configuration of the traffic flow at this intersection should be evaluated as part of the site plan proposal, and the layout of the sidewalk curb edge should be modified as required. Sidewalk and landscaping alignment reference drawing C-104 planting plan. The 3 proposed tree planting beds along the front of the property are aligned to the east of the face of the existing buildings on South Street. The approximately 12 feet wide usable sidewalk will be impacted in the winter when snow from the road is piled along the curved edge. I recommend that the configuration of the sidewalk and the planting beds be evaluated for pedestrian traffic relative to snow removal by the city. I also suggest that the tree planting beds be relocated to the west so that they are not east of the existing building facades, therein providing a wider usable sidewalk. Trash removal. The proposed plans have no consideration for trash collection on the site. I anticipate that any use of the property will require the disposal of trash, and there should be adequate means for collection and removal by the city. Small trash receptacles should be located on the sidewalk, and any trash dumpster considered should be concealed and located away from the sidewalk. Bicycle racks. The proposed plans do not indicate bicycle racks on the site. These should be considered for the use of the property. Respectfully submitted, Gary and Joy Miller McCula, 37 Cunningham Avenue, Glens Falls, and 3 Broad Street, Glens Falls. Now you can come back. What should I do?
Just a quick point of clarification to the gentleman's concerns, which are certainly legitimate ones. And without respect to the natural project, which, as the chairman mentioned, have already been approved by the planning board, the city has been concerned about the prospects of parking impacts by the ongoing development downtown. As you may know, we had submitted sort of tentative plans, nothing officially. We were looking at a facility potentially in the Elm Street lot. For a variety of reasons that didn't gain a lot of purchase. We still are looking at the different parking issues. As you mentioned, we did have a parking study commissioned by DFG Planning, who was the initial planning organization that did a preliminary study for the DRI back in 2017. Actually, the study, I think, was a year later. They have, and we'll have those more details about that report forthcoming, but they have essentially said that there's no immediate parking problem. They did say that we should essentially rationalize our parking better. You may have noticed that we have begun re-implementing the enforcement of our limitations, time limitations downtown in both the street lots and on the street and in the lots themselves. I think we need to sort of take a look, a deeper look at some of the short, medium, and long-term concerns that people have, whether it's for businesses or for residents. But those are issues that we're certainly taking into account. And again, this particular project, with the exception of these few spaces you're referring to on South Street, is a net zero impact on actual parking availability.
One of the other things that I would point out too, in reference to the Elm Street lot, for at least the past 4 years that I'm aware of, between the infrastructure project that was going on, the work that was being done to 220 Glen, and the work that's being done to Glens Falls National Bank, easily a third of that parking lot has been taken up by contractors, by work being done in the parking lots with the infrastructure, the drainage and things like that. As soon as Glens Falls National is done and that work is complete, that lot should be back to its full capacity. It's been down at least 50 parking spaces in that lot for the better part of the last 4 years.
That's right. And you'll also note that the bank has not had people there for a while, but, bank officials will tell you that they specifically instruct their employees that they should not park there, right? So I mean, they have other designated spaces. So the bank themselves is a let's say, a minor impact on parking, either on South Street or on Elm Street. Thanks.
As far as and I don't know if you guys want to come back up, the site and design team want to come back up. Some of the items that were in Mr. Kula's letter, I don't know if you want to try to address those. Did you get a copy?
Sure, no, it's the first I'm seeing it.
Okay. I have several copies of it. The ones that come to mind that Gary talked about, I know that there was an issue that he brought up about the width of the parking or the width of the sidewalk being expanded out into the street. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's all mountable curb, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so when he talks about the parking being eliminated and that interfering with the right turn at the end, at the intersection going on from South Street onto Broad Street, I don't think that you get that far down, is that correct? I mean, those are currently parking spaces now.
That is correct.
And if they are parking spaces and there are cars parked in them, people can't travel in that lane anyway.
That's correct.
Yeah, so the length of the site is about 5 car lengths.
Yep.
2 are just going to be removed to have driveway access up and around the site. So that
That's-
leaves just 3 spaces
So that's,
potentially.
that driveway access is for emergency access vehicles and for people who are delivering goods to
That's
come in
right.
and come
Yeah.
back out.
Yeah.
That's correct. Just to service whatever their event is in and out, but there would be no parking interior to that. It's
Interior.
just access in and out.
Right. So I don't understand how it's not really changing the vehicular access along that travel aisle from what it is now.
That's correct.
So I don't see an impact there with the changes that are being proposed by this. In fact, I think that it probably becomes less impactful because there won't be cars parked there. So and as far as the snow removal, I don't know that this is a mountable curb, so the plows in the wintertime should be able to grab that snow and not have to pile it up there. Jeff, do we know what DPW's plan is for maintaining that site in the winter?
I do not.
Okay. And I think that that's something that obviously will have to be addressed as far as, if there's, I know that the building itself can be closed up. But if we have a snowfall like we had earlier, over the weekend, and we have 8 or 10 inches of snow, the city comes and clears sidewalks.
Right.
In that part of the city. But will they be removing the snow from within this so that it can continue to be used? I think that that's probably the case.
I will say there has been some discussion with the owner of the property behind, about possibly having access through that lot. So theoretically, you could plow snow all the way through, go through the parking lot behind the pavilion, and then go out that way, or come through one way or the other.
Yeah, and there's plenty of space in the rear of the building, where the band stage is. Obviously, in the wintertime, is not gonna be there.
Right.
So there's potential to have some stockpile there, short term, and then.
That's where your rain garden is. And
Exactly,
That's
and
what
just kind of push it up against that area, and there's quite a bit of space for that.
And the rain garden is meant to absorb a lot of water.
Right,
That's right.
And then, so as that accumulated snow melts, it would go right into the ground. From looking at this, I didn't really see a lot of the, I'm assuming there's been a lot of, with the stormwater that you're talking about, there's been a lot of test pits and.
Yep,
we
absolutely.
know, I know from working in that same area, You can dig about as deep as you want to dig, and all you're gonna hit is sand.
And we have great infiltration for soil, so
100%.
everything that's pitching to the rear, where that rain garden is, it's all going to disappear.
Question regarding the permeable pavement, the permeable pavers. How do those react to being plowed and having, if they have to have salt or how do those?
Yeah, there's going to be a program with DPW, no sand obviously, because that creates an issue, but we've had really good luck in winter conditions with that porous, those porous pavers. The water kind of wicks down through, even like an event like we had just recently where, you know, you're plowing through, it is a flush surface, so you can scrape over the top, and because there's voids in that porous pavement, the water dissipates actually a lot quicker than actually, impervious pavement. So you actually will see the imprints of these leaves in the snow and at certain times. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of comes about. But from a technical standpoint, porous pavements and pavers are being used throughout the North Country successfully. Just have to make sure that, you know, there's no sanding that's going on, which, you know, that's been clearly stated.
That does have to be vacuumed, they have to run the vacuum truck over
Yep,
it
exactly.
once a year.
Yep, exactly.
Just to keep it a couple times a year.
Right.
Maintenance programs.
Right.
The other items that were on his list, trash collection, is there?
Yeah, the idea was that take in, take out. However, I think during special events, the city's going to coordinate with, you know, with trash and trash receptacles, I do believe. Jeff, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, but we're considering this a take in, take out. You know, on the farmers market and with any events that, you know, they clean up after themselves.
That may have to be something that gets addressed as it moves forward. I know now there's not really an issue, correct? When the farmers market holds their stuff at the pavilion that's there, they take in, take out. There's not really a lot left.
That's right.
Are there? I don't know if there are currently trash receptacles in that area, but I know that there are.
Farther down on South Street, there's
Right.
trash.
Yeah, and just as a point of order, the plan is for us to have a manager of this facility. So there will be somebody sort of coordinating with events, and obviously we're looking at all sorts of events which might have different needs and different use and different amount of refuse that needs to be taken. So those will be done on a case-by-case basis. We'll obviously have the policies in place, but the idea is that we would have someone who's negotiating with users, whether it's regular users like the farmers market or whether it's individual events.
I don't recall what else was happening.
Like
Yeah, it was bicycle racks. No, we hadn't made any provisions, but we certainly want to promote, bike traffic through here. So we'll take a look at that comment, and I'm not sure what the city is really proposing with regard to this, but certainly, we're a big proponent of biking and mobility and accessibility throughout with all modes. So we can make accommodations from that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the city, in fact, I was just in a meeting of the the Economic Development, Community Development Committee last night, and we were reviewing the complete streets policy for the city, which of course encourages both, all of pedestrian, bicycling, and car traffic as sort of equal components. So obviously, it's a high on the list of priorities for the city as we sort of move forward. So obviously, anyway, we can accommodate alternative traffic or vehicle forms, we're certainly going to.
And I know that with the Arch Trail, I know that they had put some of the bike racks out that look like bicycles on them.
Another DRI project.
Right. So I mean, I would think that something like that could also spill into this as well. I think there's opportunities for it.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I know that was in Gary's letter was the sidewalk and landscaping alignment. Can you touch on that? I'm not 100% sure what he's saying that that's on drawing C-104.
I've got it up.
Yeah, which we have, and I think not quite sure what he's referring to, other than the planting beds.
There's 3 planter beds that are right there along the street. I think what he's saying is they're aligned, that the front of them are aligned in the front of the buildings, or they're.
To push them west.
Correct. Well, what he's suggesting is that the planters actually go into the property line. One of the reasons why we pushed the sidewalk out and have more pedestrian access is so that we could accommodate planting and tree cover. It follows the form of the streetscape, and to allow planters in that area, I think makes perfect sense, and we have plenty of room to maneuver the sidewalks. So it's a fairly standard, streetscape, complete streets design, to have street tree planting right on the sidewalk. And there's plenty of room to maneuver around those.
Yeah, from the outside face of those to the front of the mounted curb, looking at this in scale, and it's got to be at least 10 or 12 feet, correct?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And one of the things too, as a result of the SHPO comment, to somehow create some continuity
I'm going to get to that next.
with the fencing. Catherine, I don't know if we have on my flash drive, I have some images that we took. I'm not sure if we can put them.
Well, while you're getting that up and running, I will read in the SHPO comments. New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation were consulted with this. Dan, I know you'll probably speak to this as well, but do you mind if I just read in the letter that they
Go ahead.
sent forward?
No, as I indicated, I support that letter.
Yeah. So the letter is written to Andy Allison, Principal of AJ Architecture and Planning, 9 Broad Street, Glens Falls, New York. Thank you for continuing to consult with the Division for Historic Preservation of the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. We have reviewed the submitted materials in accordance with the New York State Historic Preservation Act of 1980, Section 14.09 of the New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Law. These comments are those of the Division for Historic Preservation and relate only to the historic cultural resources. We have reviewed the Glens Falls Market Center building plans dated February 3rd, 2023. We have no concerns with the new construction as its overall massing and materials are visually compatible with the adjacent historic structure. However, 51 to 63 South Street historically had buildings extending the width of the lot, which maintained a continuous street line. As such, we recommend a knee wall composed of brick and topped with a simple metal fence or one of similar design be installed in between the proposed concrete aprons and curb cuts to reestablish the historic street line. By doing so, the visual continuity of the Three Squares Historic District is strengthened while simultaneously delineating the Market Square lot from the historic district. We respectfully request that our recommendation is incorporated into the overall site plan. When a design is ready, we request that it is submitted to our office for review. A conceptual design would be sufficient for our review. Documentation requested in this letter should be provided via our cultural resource information, CRIS, system. Once on the CRIS site, you can log in as a guest and choose to submit. That just kind of talks about how they go along with it, and that is from William Floyd, the Historic Preservation Technical Specialist. Did you get a copy of this?
Yes, we do have that.
So I'll let you kind of discuss that.
So this kind of ties in with the comment about the sidewalk and landscaping alignment. So with SHPO's comment, they may conflict, and we would like to take another look and study the appropriate knee wall and boundary that SHPO is desiring to see, and try to align that also a little bit with the comment about the tree planting beds.
Yeah, I mean, we show a couple of examples here on the screen. I was able to take some shots from Glens Falls. If you want to kind of pan through maybe another one there. This is kind of what they're looking for in terms of kind of some kind of a theme, because we're in the historic district. So we have a fence along a fence line that includes maybe some pillars and columns, and obviously we want something to kind of be in alignment with the style of the building and kind of the project itself. So it's really that edge and how we address that we're going to need a little bit of time to kind of take a look at how we want to address that. There's some things that we can do with the planters to kind of combine them. We don't want to limit too much access throughout the space, and that's kind of I think that's the catch and the challenge for us, is that we want to be able to concentrate this fence and this line that SHPO's looking to have us include, so that there's accessibility, or as much accessibility around and in the space without blocking off accessibility.
And, yeah, and you don't want to hinder the emergency egress
Exactly.
to get in there, or the snow removal. I
Right.
mean, if we go crazy with this, all of a sudden, now we're
Right.
having to figure out how do we get in
Right.
there to get snow removal.
Right.
So I agree that, I think that some have to be,
And the vendors really, for the market, really kind of wanted access, so it's.
Absolutely.
They were really worried about how they, because now they can just drive in and park where they unload. So
Right.
they're like, now we're gonna have to unload and wheel our stuff in, so.
Right.
and I think adding a fence complicates that.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
A couple things that are interesting. One, in the meeting I was just referring to that I was at last night, Councilman Bob Landry had mentioned when I showed them this letter, that picture right there, yeah, hold that one for a second. Nope. Nope,
last
the
one.
one you just were at.
You're going the opposite way.
You're going the wrong direction. There.
All the way to the right.
All the way to the right.
To the right, yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
It's just open.
That was what was essentially recommended by SHPO when the pavilion was done there. So, maybe there's some way of accommodating these things. The one consideration, or concern that I have, at least on behalf of the mayor, is that, one hope that we have is that events at the times become large enough that they then you close off the block of the street there, and you sort of spill out into the street. So, it doesn't mean you have to have unfettered access, but you certainly want to make sure that you're not limiting access and the flow between people going out on the street and using the street for vendors and things like that. So, we'll look and see if there's some way to sort of address that, but obviously, we'll take that.
And I think there's a way that we might be able to do that within the planter beds themselves and actually address that and still keep the spaces in between the beds. Might be an opportunity for, a little protection of the plant beds themselves, because we don't want, people going through the perennials and shrubs and things. So it'd be just a little bit of a, so we have to work on the details.
That was the other, the recommendation of a small knee wall with something on it. The first thing I thought of is the guys on skateboards,
Right,
the guys on their inline skates, are gonna love that for grinding. It's gonna work.
Yeah. I know. So we'll come up.
Anytime you put something like that around, that's
Yeah.
the first group of people that are gonna find it.
Yeah.
And it'll be covered in wax before you know it.
So we want to be practical. We want to be practical, and we want to respect, obviously, the intent of the letter, and we think we can come up with something.
I think that addressed all those items. I would, Mr. Brown, I will turn the floor over
Regarding
to
the
you.
SHPO, I know you have to study this, but the planters are flush with the sidewalk and the inside pavement,
That's correct.
or do you have a low curve?
I don't think we have a detail for a curve in that. It would be flush. We can take a look at a curve around that.
Certainly want to allow for a lot of pedestrian invitation
That's right.
to the site. Maybe that fencing can just go around the inside loop of the planter and stub up out a little bit like that one
Yep.
shot there,
Yep.
and still leave a wide opening.
That's what we're hoping.
That would at least, it's not gonna align with the building like SHPO is looking, and it's not masonry, but it is a visual barrier.
Right.
And that's about, it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. And we'll take a harder look at it. I mean, again, we want to keep it in complementary to the building, complementary to the louvered fence that we have, and we just have to kind of take a look at it. I mean, the last thing we want is something that's so out of character with, our building and the space that, and it cumbers accessibility. We can, I think, between Devin's group and my group, we can come up with some design solution there that I think will be a happy meeting for everyone.
It's pretty obvious, SHPO is thinking something that has a masonry component to it, the low wall.
Right.
That adds to the troubles.
It does.
Yeah,
Well, look at it as a design opportunity.
Right.
yeah.
You missed that challenge there.
Yeah. Ethan was talking about the pavements, and I don't want to get too far away from that. We got these huge fire trucks that are going to go around the site. Is that pavement going to support that kind of load?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a heavy duty paver load, so it's really the sub base and how we put it down, yes.
Yeah, the maintenance of the subbase
Right, right, and we've got plenty of really good soils, there's no clay, everything drains really, really well, so we're gonna have.
In
good
looking at
success with
that, in looking at that permeable paver and porous pavement details, you know, it looks like you've got, under the pavers, 21 and a half inches of total depth of drainage material. It's well, I've done a couple of these.
Yeah.
You know, porous pavement parking lots, and there's almost 3 feet of crushed stone that are in there that's heavily impacted.
Right.
Autobahn construction.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it is set up so that it's acceptable of driving
That's right.
large vehicles in it. You know, I'm assuming that this has all been run in front of, you know, Jamie Trammell and,
Yep.
and the fire marshal.
Yep.
So I'm sure that they've looked at it and they feel comfortable with being able to get in there to get the vehicles in.
To kind of wrap up the paving and the SHPO letter, you'll come back to us with some options about how to address your concern.
That's right.
Okay.
Anything else on your?
Nope.
Very good. Mr. Bellman, I will open the floor up to you. Work our way around the board.
The drawings look great, addressed a lot of issues. We'll see what happens with that. That's going to be great for the city.
Ms. Golden?
I love most of this. I would love to see more greenery, more planting, especially because it is, you know, a public space that will be used. Like I love the rain garden, and I would love to see more, like, you know, I mean, that's one of the things that I love about the city is that there's a lot of gardens and there's a lot of flowers and shrubbery and things like that, and it's very, green, and I love it.
Interesting you mention that because I just got a call this afternoon with MRTA Development, sort of an update of this project. One of the things we're talking about, of course, is the idea that back space there, that corner space is designed to be sort of a little bit, we're sort of moving the pocket park that was once going to be down the way on south from school streets. And one of the discussions about that was the ability of maybe making it a little bit more green as opposed to a lot of this green infrastructure, right? We're talking about stormwater retention, you know, that's green in the environmental sense, but in the aesthetic sense. So we were looking at things as different as, you know, planting boxes along the fences that could be maybe community sponsored, even potentially building like a green wall, right? All along that whole border with Peter Shabbat, creating some sort of living wall. So there's a lot of things we could look at there, and I think it looks like we may be able to find reallocate some of the funding to do that.
And the knee wall can also become a planter. We can find a good opportunity to bring that greenery in.
Yeah, because I would love to see, like, even going down this pathway here, is like, you know, if you have greenery and flowers and just kind of the whole thing wraps. And I know it's a lot, and I know this can be a lot, but I just think.
No, but it's funny because that's what people, when we walk down the alley where spot is, you know, something, the mural line looks great, it's like, boy, it's still very industrial looking when you walk down the alley.
Yeah.
Greenery right there would be a nice addition.
Yeah, one of the pieces with Streetscape is that, you know, the amenity package that the city is, you know, so there's planters that can be done that are really lightweight planters that can be moved around in the wintertime, moved back out in the summertime, so it becomes a whole citywide kind of initiative to actually, you know, create. You know, this is really just the start, and I think once people start coming and we start, you know, working with the city to, you know, like the pocket park, and then also some of the planters, banners. There's all kinds of things that can happen here. You know, we're allocating a location for potentially still to be determined the shade structures, and so we're really going to create a beautiful space. I mean, there's opportunities all the way around to really enliven it and get more greenery and flowers and planters.
Okay, I love the idea of a living wall.
And yeah, that was originally proposed and we had to, because of cost, I mean, but.
Yeah. I just thought of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Maybe we can
Um, Again.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, see how this evolves and get some events and get a year under our belt when this is up.
That's right.
Because the city guy, the DPW guys lately, the flowers downtown, the pots, even on the corners of South Street and stuff like that, have looked incredible. And they've done a great job, so maybe, you know, after we see how this works, some of that stuff where we say, well, this spot really doesn't get used. Something can be incorporated in there, you know?
So my other question too, and I know this is like very long, a long ways down the road, but what type of events do you think will be held here?
Well, we try to be as open as we can. I mean, one thing would be to sort of look at events that are already going on. Like, and obviously have the farmers market, you have some other downtown events that are going on, whether it's Take the Bike. We'd like to look at private events, you know, there's certain things that are going on, car shows. I mean, this is not designed to sort of, for instance, drive inside, but you could put, you know, heat vehicles inside if you wanted something where you have certain programs. Obviously, you might have it for private events if you have weddings or other kinds of social events. You know, at one point, we had a huge laundry list of things that we were gonna do with this wonderful thing, having, you know, concerts, I mean, but then of course you have the problem with acoustics and sound, all sorts of things, electronics. So I mean, we've looked at a lot of things. In fact, I could give you a copy of some of in one of the presentations we did. We sort of ran through a list of the different possibilities. But as Art said, you know, I mean, a lot of this will boil down to how can the space be used. It's one of those things that you sort of, when people say, does this work for me? And you say, yes, this is what we're going to use it for.
Yeah, okay. And the space, yeah, that was my other question. So is it Spring Development? Are they,
Spring City.
they own that?
They do not, but they will. Their plan is to purchase that. That's the city-owned property that the juice and jar used to be, and they're looking to make that, to attach that as like an outdoor seating portion of the restaurant that we're going for hot shots.
Okay, all right. Because again, like, just thinking, you know, greenery, nature, I know it's a city, but it's still like.
Well, one of the concerns, one of the attempts they're trying to make there is to make that so that it has a private nature, but it's not isolated from, like, there's a flow-through space there. Obviously, I have to delineate somehow, but one of the ideas they were thinking about was greenery. That would sort of separate that, so you sort of go in where there's a garden atmosphere or whatever. I mean, obviously, that's
what Miller did with her space with her outside patio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go there and eat it.
Right.
It was just amazing.
Right.
Yeah, think of the parklets that popped up during the pandemic and out on the street and out on the sidewalk in several locations. I mean, we helped out with some of those in Saratoga along Henry Street with Flatbird Social and I mean, as creative as you want to get with those spaces, and obviously the more creative and the more inviting you make that space, the more people will come. So I think those kinds of things are going to really take care of themselves. And
That's the biggest thing. I would just love to see it. Just more room.
yeah.
That's it.
Mr. Brown has another comment.
I have a big picture question. I'm not clear on the ability for this to function year-round based on what I'm seeing. If it's all year function, it's got to be built to energy codes, double glazing, insulation, you know, the whole shooting match. Otherwise, if you build a seasonal construction and codes, you will obviously avoid that.
Our approach is to do it as a low energy code, so the building is not heated, but it does block the wind, and it provides an enclosure to protect from the cold air. And we are anticipating some level of comfort just from that protection, and any activity inside will also generate a little bit of heat as well, and be captured in that space.
Well, the Chris Kringle Mart was just temporary
Right.
tents.
Right. Yeah, one of the
This
things
would
we're
have a
looking
lot
for.
more protection than the temporary tent.
But they had heated them too.
Correct, and they're temporary heaters that are brought in, and we would imagine doing that as well. I mean, to have some
So if someone
temporary-
rented that for an event, they could say they're bringing a
Absolutely.
portable heater.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've seen that happen, like, you know, before a hockey game, they'll have an outdoor party, and they've got those individual heaters that, you know.
Well, we did that tent for, at the hotel for Special Olympics.
Yep.
So we had a dining room, you know, big tent brought in, and we could seat 200 people in there for dinner.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, it doesn't take a lot, like you're saying, once you have the shelter,
Yep.
you know, to get it up to, you know, to get it where it's, you're not gonna live in there, but
No.
to be comfortable.
Yeah. Plus each body is producing about 700.
Plus, we're outdoor hardy North Country
That's
people.
right. Hardy stuff.
Hardy stuff.
So I guess my other question too is, again, thinking long term, like, would you provide tables, chairs, anything like that?
There is the potential to have, because as you might remember, we've agreed to lease the first, well, you can't see it as well there, the first floor of the incubator, right? The city's gonna be leasing that space. There's substantial storage space downstairs, so it's likely that ultimately, whether it's gonna happen immediately or not, that we will have spaces down there where you can bring tables and chairs down, so you can sort of move them over there as needed. But you have to keep the space as flexible as possible.
And we still, as the city, it's still us taxpayers paying for it. So a lot of it could be based on a function issue, like a lot of, I can see it evolving as it goes. Because having people to move that stuff and to do it,
Sure.
store it, I mean, we deal with it every day, all the time, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
So if they do something, they call a vendor and have it brought in.
Ms. Andrews?
I had a question about the seasonal nature of the building too, because there's been so many evolutions of this. There's no heat at all? No heat. So the utility closet is what?
The utility closet will be heated. It will have a unit heater mounted on the wall, and that is to keep the pipes down.
So there is water in the building?
Yes.
Yes,
There's two posts.
And where does the water go? Because there's no bathrooms, so.
No, for hose outlets.
Oh, okay, so there will be some water on the property, because I was wondering, how they're gonna clean up after themselves. I don't know how they do it now, but.
Yeah, we estimate some hoses will be connected to it and it can be hosed down.
Okay. And I think for the market now, they bring in porta potties, is that the kind of thing?
There's actually, again, over in the incubator, there's gonna be at least 2 bathrooms, and that will be accessible, right? We'll have access, to be a city-controlled space, so there will be indoor bathrooms over in the incubator.
Oh, good, because that changes the flexibility of the space for moving the elbows into the season. So is there some wastewater then from that, or no, because it's outside?
It's outside, yeah,
so
just
it's-
water and electric to the side.
Right,
I
okay.
mean, we have the ability to tie into sanitary, but there's no.
There's no heat. And so again, we bring in the porta potties or whatever, and then use the city space. I didn't know about the incubator space, that really helps a lot.
Well, there was a lot of this stuff, this thing has evolved for
Yeah.
so long. These questions, when we were talking about the other project, that was all, the Spring City project was all kind of, evolved from that, so a lot of those questions.
Any question is forgiven for not knowing because it's been going on for so long.
And there's a
Sometimes I
kitchen
don't answer
and there's
myself.
storage space and there's all
Yeah,
that stuff.
they're gonna be providing us, I think we have a long-term, it's a long-term lease, I'm trying to figure out how long, I think it might be 20 years. We've agreed to lease the first floor of the incubator. We're still sort of working around what that space is gonna be used for exactly. One thought that we're thinking of is some sort of a commercial kitchen, an offshoot of the farmer's market, having other kinds of events that you could have in there in the wintertime. That would be obviously a conditioned space. The whole space is about 5,200 square feet, so it's a pretty good sized space, but obviously you have to think about how the flexibility of that space as well. And whether we have a potential tenant, in which case, you've got some coverage for that, if it's consistent with the use of the adjacent spaces.
So, the farmer's market would still have to find another place to go in the wintertime?
Well, ostensibly not. I mean, it depends on how if we could temporarily heat that. I mean, if you could provide some sort of, it's not gonna be, 70 degrees, but I think, in the middle of winter, you can certainly make it comfortable enough to use.
Then again, if they want to use it, maybe they're ready to use it.
Well, yeah. And that's something we'll discuss.
Okay, great. Those were my big, is the seasonal thing was
Sure.
kind of bumping in. Okay, great, that's good.
Good question. Do you guys maybe know off the top of your head, how many outlets available in the space? Because I know being associated with another venue, every vendor comes in there and needs a ton of power.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what you guys might have really seen a detail or a
Yeah.
schematic for the electrical. I'm sure there's plenty out there.
I can answer.
But that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah, so on every interior column, there are 2 outlets, one on each side. On every column, between each overhead door, there is an outlet. And then on the outside of the building, at every other space between the overhead doors, there's another outlet.
Because if you have, vendors coming in and all that kind of stuff, and you've got 40 vendors and you got 20 outlets, that's where the trouble starts. You know, so I was just curious on, you know, what you guys had in mind for that system.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you saying each space has an outlet? So
Uh,
each overhead door?
Yeah, let me point it out. What number is that?
A101.
A101?
It's down at
And you got the tables in the middle.
That's where the columns have,
Right. And they
the
got,
columns have two.
Sure.
So that go right here, one more up.
Very
Here you go. So we have column, between the overhead doors, right? So we have an outlet at every single column, between every single overhead door on the inside.
Oh, great.
We have an outlet on each side of these interior columns, and we have outlets at every other space between the doors around the outside.
Okay, thank you.
And just design a feature in there where they can turn the outside outlets off.
Yes, so the
Because that's a
controls
big
are,
problem.
the controls are in the little utility
What's
closet.
that?
So you can't charge your phone or your computer while.
Well, yeah, you'll have people camped out there all the time, so
Yeah.
that's gotta be able to be turned
That's a
off.
good point.
Yeah.
the other thing that I have seen in relationship to that, so if you go to some of these festivals where they have vendors that come in, and I know I had seen at one point, I don't know if it's in this set, but they had something where they had, the, like, 10 by 10 booths set up, and how many could be inside in the winter, and how many could be outside in the summertime, and I know like at Larac, a lot of times, they'll bring those little portable generators.
Yeah.
The vendors come with those, and they've got a little portable generator, they got, you know, they've always got a piece of cardboard or something up to block the sound, so that it's not coming out to where they are.
Yeah, I don't think they have
A lot of them.
outlets where they are now, because you see, you know, the smoothie people, they all have their own.
They've all got the little generator that's parked out beside the, you know, out beside the trailer or whatever, so.
But Tom did, the president of the farmer's market,
Yeah.
when we were back and, you know, again, going over Spring Street, we had a discussion about that interest in that, and these guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, absolutely.
It's good.
Anything else?
I think that's it, I was on that tail end, so everybody else answered my questions.
It'll last every time.
I always try and bounce back and forth. Dan set a precedent.
I know.
I think at this point, I'll ask you, the next step as far as seeker, similar to how we did, I do want to, before I get to that, this was referred to Warren County Planning. We did get a referral back from them that there is no county impact. It's African proposed development of current vacant lot in a multi-purpose building with outdoor plaza for farmers market and other events. There will be no parking available on the site. The site location is 263 South Street, no county impact. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. As far as next step for us with seeker.
You have to come back.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's a 30-day period, right? You have a comment period, and unfortunately, I guess, in fact, the next board meeting is gonna be 28 days from today.
28 days from today. So, do we have to do this similar to how we did Spring City Development, where we declare our intent to act as lead agent, and then notices get sent out to
Yes.
all the agencies? Who handles that? Your office handling that?
I would be Catherine.
I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, I did it when Catherine was
right.
not
here.
Good, for Spring
So I
City.
took care of it, but I'm not
So,
going to do it.
I guess at this point, we should make that as a resolution.
Sure.
Okay, so then I would make a motion that the Glens Falls City Planning Board hereby intends to declare lead agency status for seeker review for the project identified as the City Economic Development Corporation for the Glens Falls Market Center located at tax map number 309.28-1-9 and 309.28-1-10, commonly known as 51 to 63 South Street. So
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a second for that? Second. All in favor of that motion? Any opposed? So we have declared ourselves that we intend to act as lead agent. Our 30-day clock begins running now. As Jeff Flagg noted to us, our next meeting is 28 days from now. So we are kind of we kind of fall under that. I'm not sure how we handle that. Do you feel, as the design team, that you'll have responses to all of the items in time to get them back to the city within that? And let me ask this question. At our next meeting, at our April meeting, could we review this and potentially, if a motion were put forth to approve this project, conditional on no further objection from the other interested
What would that
agencies,
be, 2 days?
which would then be 2 days.
Right.
So I think
Well,
then
conditional
at the April meeting, we could then say, okay.
Right, unless we do something in the next 2 days.
We've addressed all these items. We haven't had anybody step forth from any of the other, and quite honestly, there wasn't anyone that stepped forward from the Spring City. None of the other agencies that were involved stepped forward and wanted to act as lead agent. So I honestly don't see that happening here either. But obviously we have
Sure, of
we have a
course.
30-day window.
As part of the process.
Have to run through with that.
And one of the things with regard to the stormwater report, there's just some things that we have to coordinate with Jeremy, so we may not be able to have that in for that April, but we've been in discussion with him, so he's on board with what we're doing. It's just a matter of crossing T's, dotting I's in the paperwork. So if at that point we could have a conditional approval based on the final stormwater report, that would be helpful. Other than that, I think the ship out comment is really going to be pretty straightforward, and I think we'll have some things there for you.
Yeah, and again, they want to see that back at SHPO so that they can sign off on it. If we can get a sign off from them within that 30 days, or again, that can be one of the conditions as well. Just out of curiosity, what is the total area of the site? I know it's
0.66 acres.
0.66, so we're not in any threshold where we're going to be into a SWIP or any of that kind of stuff, so.
It's just working through the design guidelines and, for the city to meet those requirements, and everything is really going to meet easy requirements, so it's just,
It's a formality, but it's a formality with teeth, so.
That's right. And we have great soils. You don't know how happy that is.
Yeah, no, that's, having done projects in that same general area, I know exactly how you feel. So, I guess then if there's nothing else on this evening, we'll make a motion to table this project until the April meeting, pending additional information being submitted to the planning and zoning coordinator. Can I get a second on that tabling? All in favor? Any opposed? We will see you in April.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I had my agenda right here. There it is. I put it underneath everything. Put it in. All right, the last item on our agenda is site plan review 23-0002 pursuant to the city code 220-19 subsection C. Greg Singer and Lisa Ovid, owners of tax map number 309.28-2-7, commonly known as 58 South Street, is seeking a site plan review and approval to renovate the second floor to be used for short-term rental apartments and office space. Before we move forward with this application, and I know that the applicants are here before us, I will let the board know that I am the architect for this project, and I will recuse myself from voting on it. I will continue to run the meeting, but I will not be voting on the project, and I will let the applicants make their address to the rest of the board. So, without further ado, either Greg or Lisa. That's the rest.
Hello.
Good evening.
Where to begin? We're recently the new owners of 58 through 66 South. And I've been working with Ethan to prepare the upstairs 3,000 square feet as 4 separate one-bedroom apartments to use for short-term rentals. Right in my background is short-term rentals. We do have a rental management company. We've actually been operating in downtown Glens Falls for the past couple of years. So when this building became available, we saw an opportunity to work in conjunction with the city and help develop South Street. As this is my hometown, and my family has had businesses here, including on South Street, over the past several years. So we see this as an opportunity to help stimulate the growth of South Street, but also bring in tourists, give them a way to better experience downtown in depth, and give them more options for accommodations, higher end accommodations even, and let them experience and patron the businesses that are already there and the ones that are coming soon.
Currently, the building is mostly vacant. There's one tenant that we have on the retail space that's a bagel shop. And currently the upstairs is a completely vacant 3,000 square foot space that hasn't been used in years. So we're hoping to take the building back and really build it back up and help South Street revitalize.
A couple of things that I can add to what they've spoken about as far as the architecture and the layout of the building, as Greg and Marissa said. The upstairs currently is completely wide open. It was formerly a billiards hall years and years ago. The intent is to, as they said, to have 4 short-term rental apartments. Interestingly, the way we have it laid out, if somebody wanted to come in and rent the entire space for themselves, the apartments are set up to be adjoining apartments with doors they can open to them. So if somebody wanted to rent 2 apartments, or 2 of the spaces, they could rent 2 of them. If they wanted to rent the whole thing, they can rent the whole thing. There is a small office space upstairs for the property manager. And we do have some work to do to rebuild the stairs, both interior and exterior to the building. So, outside of that, I don't see anyone from is there anybody from the public, comment, nobody online? I will start with Mr. Brown.
It's all inside work, I don't care. You're the architect.
It is all inside work. There are some windows there are some window openings in the building. Actually, the roof seems to be in pretty decent shape. There's one section of it that's got some structural issues.
The roof was done in 2018 supposedly. There is a drain issue that we're actually having fixed. If it hadn't snowed this week, it would have been fixed. And one seam that needs to be sealed. So overall, it's in very good shape. The building next door is another thing to be talked about at some point.
That's in process.
Yeah. 2 separate buildings, or?
They're shared, completely seamed up, so, yeah.
That's everything for you. I'll start with Mr. Lampier. I'll start with the other side.
Just, what considerations for ingress and egress and what's already there, or is that suitable? Just looking at it briefly.
So the interior space itself has one interior stair that runs, the stair itself runs down to a door that swings in, which obviously does not meet code. So the interior stair we're going to have to address that, and we know that. There is an opportunity at the storefront downstairs for us to bring that stair in and kind of look at that storefront area to be able to get an egress out that way. Going out the back of the building, there's currently an egress that goes out to a set of stairs that goes down to grade on the back side of the building. So we've got that. The building will be fully sprinklered, which it is currently not. So those are the 2 items that have been looked at as far as ingress and egress and life safety.
Yeah. That's all I have at this point.
question was the office space, is that one of the units could be used as office space, or there's an additional space somewhere that it's being purchased?
It's a tiny,
Sorry, yes,
yeah, it's a
it is.
tiny,
It's a very small
Oh,
portion.
okay.
It's
It's-
the actual, yeah.
it's very tiny, it's just to do work in and, you know, paperwork and stuff.
It's 11 foot 7 inches deep by 5 feet wide, which is just wide enough to fit a desk.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's this, just for the record, what's the square footage of each apartment once you get the walls in and all the, any idea?
It's about 6 something?
Each apartment is just about 650 square feet.
Yeah, 6 and change.
Because it's square, pretty much, so.
For the most part, it's a 3,000 square foot total if you take the circulation space that we have. The circulation space is set up so at the top of the stairs it gets wider. It can be a sitting area. So if somebody arrives before, you know, like a check-in time at most Airbnbs and things like that is usually around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It gives the time for the previous people to get out, the cleaning people time to come in and get it prepared. But if somebody were to arrive early, it gives them a place where they could bring their luggage or
Right,
bring
drop their
whatever,
luggage or
drop stuff
hang
off.
out or, yeah.
But there's a little space there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's like
actually,
sitting area.
yeah, it'll be set up as a really comfortable space, so not only people arriving early and whatnot, but as Ethan had mentioned, we've designed the apartments to open up for, you know, multiple units to be rented by the same group. So that can be like a shared space that kind of, you know, ties the apartments together a little bit more.
Very cool.
Makes it a little bit more cohesive and comfortable.
Yeah. That's all.
Ms. Cohen?
Do you own a parking lot next to it?
We do.
So people will have parking spaces?
We're planning on designating.
Parking.
Speaking of parking.
You should be awarded.
Yeah, well,
We
You heard the
consider
parking.
that, yes.
we're considering designating one parking spot to each of the units, so that there's at least one. There's, I think, currently technically 9 spots, but a little bit more, but I think it's noted as 9.
And it's all the same parcel. There's a parking lot separate.
It was purchased on deed with the same, yeah.
So the survey drawing is in the package. And it does show how it's all kind of broken out and which buildings, which parcels. This formerly was, one of them was
Well, there's
Irish
Pizza
Lights.
and-
And there was a structure there previously that was taken down.
Yep.
I don't know what that was. Somebody said it was another restaurant maybe.
I think so at one time.
Chinese restaurant.
It's been a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So there is a vacant parcel there that is all part of the project. Mr. Milton, anything for you?
No, so it's stairs going up, so no ADA is not handicap accessible for moving.
Unfortunately, not.
Unfortunately not. We were hoping that, but yeah, we won't be able to do that.
No, and yeah, the cost for elevators just, it looks great, you know, that's the trend now that's happening. I'm not a big fan of the short-term rentals in the neighborhood, but this is commercial space, so, you know what, it's what's going on, and you guys are doing a great job with it, so, you know, it looks like it's gonna be well done, and like you said, it does have parking. It'll be advantageous to the benefit to the city and not a draining and taking parking, so,
Yeah,
great.
and in that, on that same note, we're also not taking housing from anyone either. So
Right, you're right.
that's very important to us. We wanted to make sure that this project didn't remove available housing from anyone.
No, I think that's a big thing now. And here, a lot of people don't realize a lot of the housing that's here is gone this way, but again, you're adding to it, it's not taking away. Thank you.
The project was referred to Warren County Planning. We did get a response back from them that the applicant proposes construction of existing second-story building to accommodate 4 one-bedroom apartment units for short-term rental with office space with 1 designated parking spot per unit. We'll say location 58 South Street, the tax map number was listed, and there's no county impact. So, provide that to you as well. And if there's no further comments, I will ask Ms. Andrews to put together a motion for this.
Well, Stephen first.
Oh, that's right, we have to do Seeker first. I'll defer to.
With respect to
You
secret
only had
action.
to, you only had to slap me.
I know this one's sorry. I would classify this as a type 2 as its replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure or facility in kind on the same site, and it does not exceed any threshold. Therefore, no further action is required.
Now I'll let you.
I'll do my best. I'd like to make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board, acting as the site plan review board, grant. No, it's totally granted. Grant the approval to the project identified by Greg Singer at 58 South Street as presented at the meeting of March 7, 2023.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? And I will recuse myself, so you have a unanimous decision. Thank you very much.
I'd love to see it before you.
Oh, yeah, please.
I got great pictures.
What's the, you know, what's the store that you alluded to?
So right next door is the project that Chad Nims had brought to us previously. I'm not sure if you remember.
Yeah, they didn't have anything with that?
Yes, he is.
That
He's-
was when I first.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
so
when
when
he
it was
first
like-
did it. Yeah. So it's like 4 or 5 years ago. So Chad purchased the building, it's a former garment factory. The roof of that building is severely deteriorated and has been leaking very badly for the last 4 or 5 years. There was a building permit that was applied for that was never granted because the engineer that was involved at that time rescinded his seal on it for whatever reason with Chad. That is being worked on now to get the building shored up structurally so that they can get in there and put a new roof on it. Because as it is right now, if they put a new roof on it, it will probably collapse the floors below it. It's in such bad shape.
Will its current condition affect your property?
We're worried about that.
We've
And they're-
been advised that it may, yes.
So this is eminent for that too.
Yes, and so Chad does have a structural engineer involved with it, that they're looking at shoring the building up so that he can put the new roof on as soon as weather breaks in spring.
It's structurally that, the wall that's next to our building, which is actually a third
That's what
story.
it looked like.
It's a third story, so ours
Yep.
is 2. That wall is also starting to have issues.
Yep.
So we're concerned with it.
Because of the deterioration of that roof.
Yeah, water's getting into that mortar and stuff.
It's been, yeah, so.
So there are, the structural engineer that's working on that, I know, has plans for how to shore that up and how to get it so that it doesn't fall down.
What's the time frame you're working on?
Yesterday.
Pretty much.
As soon as we get permits, we go.
Oh, good.
Yeah, framing would start right away, so,
Everything's lined up.
yeah.
And it's inside, so you can work around.
Yeah, yeah, and the roof, the little issues that we have with the roof are being done this week coming up, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is one additional item that's not actually on our agenda,
I figured you'd assume that, yes.
but it's about, there,
Okay, I can talk really loud.
there is a, and I think did everybody get a copy of the application that Anthony put together for lot line adjustment? And I don't know if you have that.
Well, I mean, there's actually, there has never been one. And the subdivision one is what I've actually been using, and that's just way too much for something that was a lot of adjustment. So this is a couple quick pages, you know, and I identified that at least they can use extra space if there's, usually it's no more than 3 that I've ever seen come before. When you're moving lot lines around. If you're not doing a lot line adjustment, it isn't technically speaking really a subdivision because you're not creating any new parcels, but you are doing things with lot lines that could potentially create perhaps a substandard lot or a less substandard lot. Hopefully, usually it ends up with 2 lots being a little less substandard than they were before, so now, either way, the county does require that there's some sort of either something from you guys or something administrative from our office that says, yeah, we looked at this and we don't see a problem. So I pulled that up, and because Karen mentioned, and particularly because this is all new, I think it will have to go to the county council. It was just for a resolution of approval, not a local law, anything like that. Anything else I tweak, I'm not so sure how far I have scrolled in, but I'm just tweaking and I'm not changing contents, like to the site plan, the new applications. I really didn't change content. Moved a few of the pews around in the church, but other than that, just to make it feel better. But for that one, I think I would need definitely a little approval from you guys in terms of a vote, some sort of resolution, really quick. And then I hopefully will get on the next county council agenda, so we can use it for next month, because I have 2 people waiting to come in with lot line adjustment.
It falls under the enforcement section of the zoning code, and it specifically says that any rules, regulations, and forms as approved by the common council shall be on file and available to the public. So if we're making a new form, that's why I advise Catherine, we need to have approval from the common council.
So if I'm just
You're giving an
upgrading,
advisory opinion.
so if I'm just upgrading in terms of just corrections and not adding material to an old form,
No, I think you need common council approval.
For this one?
Yes,
Yeah.
so you're asking the board to give an advisory opinion so that this can get on the.
but moving forward, if I'm just
If you're just tweaking one
Tweaking
forms that
existing
are already, yeah, that
It's an
doesn't,
existing pre-approved form and you're just cleaning it up.
yeah. I think for something like that, we would like to see it.
oh god, yeah, you've seen it, and I
Yeah.
put them out there, so
Yeah,
maybe next
so
time
for
we
something
can-
like that, if you're just tweaking them, I think we'd like to see it, but.
Yeah.
Ms. Belden, do you have any comments on the pending application in front of us? Nothing?
Well, if there's any mistakes, circle what you got, hand them to me, and I'll incorporate them before they go to county.
Ms. Andrews?
No.
I had nothing either, so.
No typos,
If-
that's all for
if
me.
If that's the case, then I would make a motion that the Glens Falls Planning Board hereby submits the following advisory opinion to the common council, that the council should look with favor on the application for lot line adjustment as presented at the meeting of 7 March 2023. Can I have a second? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Any other business? You
Well,
happy
in
with
the
it?
future, we might need to think about a sign approval as well, because you've been doing those under, I believe, site plan review? I've never come across a sign approval. Sometimes you need to see signs.
Typically it's the sign application.
I haven't found one. Okay, I'll look, maybe we did have one. Oh, we have
just-
one.
we
And
just
what have
had-
you been charging for that? Because I don't have a charge on my list.
Yeah, we just did one, the sign review for Hudson Headwaters, and that had a sign application.
Was it a site plan? Or didn't you say?
Well, that was.
Okay, well, somewhere they lost it on you, then all right, I'll find it.
Somewhere there is one, I know I've seen the
I'll find
application
it.
for sign,
Yeah, this is,
right,
Because I've been having those next month.
that was just review.
that's the code.
There is an
There is
application
one.
All right,
somewhere, I have
There
seen
is
it.
a application for a sign permit. It's a sign permit.
Yeah.
All right. We had, well, it's the sign permit, it's
Yeah.
not for you guys.
No,
It's a sign
It's
permit,
a-
and
just
the
a
issue
regular sign
is,
permit.
if it does not comply with the code, then it has to be referred here for the advice, for the recommendation.
Recommendation.
So I don't actually have a charge listed for when it comes to you guys.
No, it's
No,
part of the
they
sign,
paid the sign
they would pay
permit
the sign
fee.
permit fee.
Okay.
And then if they don't meet the criteria of the sign permit, then it would come
Then
here.
it comes here.
As opposed to going to zoning for a zoning.
I'm not worried, but it's been charging that, so it's okay, all right.
Now, you charge for the sign permit.
For the permit, yeah, no, well, that's actually Justin's area, he charges. So, okay, great, I don't need to invent something weird, okay. Thanks for the approval.
Absolutely. Is
All
there
right,
anything else
bye-bye.
for the good of the cause? Then I would make a motion to adjourn the planning board of 7 March 2023. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?